You seriously wore those shoes to a boutique, Monica? Rachel's voice cut through the air like a blade. She wasn't whispering, she never whispered when she was humiliating me. We'd just stepped into Bell and Ivy, the kind of designer store where everything smelled like luxury and looked like a price tag with stitching. I had on my favorite pair of black flats. Comfortable, nothing fancy. I'd gotten them on clearance last spring for Chloe's school play, spent the whole month saving for them. They weren't trendy, but they were clean and held up through rain, long walks, and job interviews. They were mine. Rachel tilted her sunglasses down and let out a fake laugh that echoed around the boutique. Monica, did you lose a bet, or are you just embracing the mom who gave up aesthetic today? I froze. Two women browsing a clothing rack nearby glanced over. A boutique clerk looked up, and my 8-year-old daughter Chloe, who had been clutching a juice pouch and watching us with wide eyes, blinked hard and looked at the floor. The shame didn't come all at once. It hit in waves first, a flush in my cheeks, then a tight knot in my stomach. And as I stood there, trying to decide whether to defend myself or just smile and take it like usual, a voice behind me said, "Actually, I designed those shoes." Everything stopped. My breath caught. Rachel's eyebrows jumped. The clerk straightened. The entire store shifted, like someone had flipped a switch on the moment. If this moment grabbed your heart even just a little, take a second to hit that like button. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it right now? I read every single one. Let's see how far this story reaches. I slowly turned around. There he was. A tall man in his 42s, probably 6'2", with smooth brown skin, clean-cut beard, and a quiet kind of confidence. He wore a gray wool coat over a dark crew neck and simple jeans understated, but sharp. He held a leather folio in one hand and looked right at Rachel. "I'm Brandon Carter," he said. "Founder of Carter & Co. Those flats you just mocked? Limited run, 20 pairs only. Made for a women's community program I helped launch last year." Rachel didn't say a word. For once in her life, my sister, the walking megaphone of judgment, was speechless. Brandon looked at me next. His eyes were kind, but steady. "Those shoes were designed to be worn by real women. Women with stories. Women who show up, no matter how hard life makes it. Not everyone can see that at first glance." I didn't know what to say. My voice felt trapped in my throat. But Chloe, she grinned. Rachel's mouth opened like she wanted to say something clever, but no words came out. Just a weird half-laugh, like her brain was buffering. And in that moment right there, in the middle of a fancy boutique, I didn't belong, and something in me changed. Before that boutique humiliation, before Brandon Carter walked in like some guardian angel in sneakers, I was just trying to get through another normal Saturday. My name's Monica Taylor. I'm 32, a single mom, and I work the front desk at Briar Ridge Community Library. Not glamorous, not high-paying, but it keeps the lights on and lets me spend evenings helping my daughter Chloe with her homework. I make decent coffee, I know how to stretch a dollar, and if I'm being honest, I'm tired. Not just physically, the kind of tired that sits in your bones because life never gives you room to breathe. I wasn't always like this. There was a time I believed life could be fair if you just worked hard and stayed kind. But people like my sister Rachel, they test that belief every time they walk into a room. Rachel and I used to be close. When we were little, we'd whisper secrets in our bunk beds, fight over cereal boxes, and plan fake weddings with pillowcase veils. But everything changed after our dad passed away when I was 17, and she was 21. She inherited the little bit of life insurance money and immediately moved to New York. Said she was done with small-town energy. Within a year, she had clawed her way into the fashion world. A few viral photos on Instagram, a couple PR invites, and boom, Rachel Taylor, self-declared style guru, influencer, and a woman who'd sell her own mother for a Vogue mention. Meanwhile, I stayed home. Took care of Mom when she got sick, Raised Chloe after her father walked out on us. No child support, no weekend visits. Just me, Chloe, and our 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. Rachel came home once or twice a year, always dressed like she was attending a movie premiere. She'd breeze in with expensive bags and a cloud of designer perfume, acting like she was doing us a favor just by being there. "Monica, you should really try concealer," she once told me during Thanksgiving dinner. "You look so tired." That's Rachel. Compliments disguised as critiques. Every interaction feels like a performance where she's the star and I'm the cautionary tale. The worst part? My mom, Linda, never says anything. She'll just shrug and mumble, "That's how Rachel is. She means well." But I know better. Rachel doesn't mean well. She means control. She means power. And she gets it by making you feel small. So when she invited us out for a girls' day in the city, I should have known better. "I'll treat you," she said, grinning over a video call. "Let's do something fun. Just you, me, Chloe, and Mom. We'll get lunch, maybe a little shopping, my treat." I didn't want to go. I had laundry to do. Chloe had a science project. I could already feel the tension bubbling. But I saw the look in Chloe's eyes, excited, hopeful. She'd never been to the city. She didn't know what Rachel was really like. So I said yes. And that's how I found myself an hour later, standing in Belle and Ivy Boutique, wearing my clearance rack shoes, trying to hold my head high while Rachel picked through silk dresses like she was born in a penthouse. I didn't know it then, but that day was going to flip everything I believed about worth, pride, and what it really means to walk tall. If there's one thing Rachel loves more than fashion, it's an audience. Belle and Ivy had just enough people to make her cruelty feel like theater. Young couples flipping through coats, an older woman browsing scarves, 2 sales associates whispering by the register. It was like she waited for that perfect crowd before delivering the blow. It started subtle. "Oh, Monica," she sighed, holding up a velvet blazer. "This would never work on you. Your arms are a little too, soft. Maybe something with longer sleeves?" I blinked. Chloe looked up at me. I forced a smile. "I'm fine with the clothes I have." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Of course you are." Then turned to the clerk and added, "She's very into comfort." The woman gave that tight customer service smile, the one people use when they want to look polite but don't mean it. I started walking away, trying to steer Chloe toward a quieter section. But Rachel wasn't done. She followed me, heels clicking like gunshots on the marble floor. "Oh, Monica," she gasped theatrically. "Please tell me you're not wearing those shoes I think you're wearing." I didn't answer. I kept walking. She reached down and tapped the toe of my shoe with hers. "Yep, there they are. You're really committed to that. Daycare teacher on a budget look, huh?" The words stung sharper than I expected, not just because of what she said, but how she said it, with ease. Like tearing me down was part of her routine. I looked around. People were definitely listening now. "Rachel, knock it off," I whispered. "What?" "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." She crossed her arms and looked me up and down. "You could at least try to look like you belong here. For Chloe's sake, if not your own." My hands clenched. That was her move. Always drag my daughter into it. Like I was failing as a mother for not owning Louboutin heels. I opened my mouth, ready to say something, anything, when I felt a small tug at my hand. Chloe, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine. "Mom," she said softly, "can we go home?" And just like that, my anger turned into guilt. Chloe didn't even look up. She just stared at the floor, like she didn't want to exist in that moment. Rachel caught that too. She leaned down toward Chloe with a condescending smile. "Oh, sweetie, don't worry. Maybe next year Mommy will save up enough to buy real shoes." That's when I snapped. Not by yelling, not by causing a scene. I just stood up straight, looked Rachel dead in the eyes, and said, "You really think money makes you better than everyone else?" Her smile cracked for a second, but she recovered fast. "No, Monica, I think choices do. And you've made some. Disappointing ones." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just held Chloe's hand a little tighter and took a deep breath. You don't get to talk to me like that. Not today. Not in front of my daughter. Rachel rolled her eyes. Oh, please. If you're going to be dramatic, at least do it in better shoes. She laughed, loud and sharp. And that's when I heard it, that deep, calm voice behind me. Actually, he said, those shoes are more valuable than anything in this store. Actually, those shoes are more valuable than anything in this store. The voice came from behind me, calm, deep, and certain. I turned slowly, my heart pounding, unsure if I was about to be embarrassed further or rescued from the flames. A man stood a few feet away, tall, dressed in a charcoal coat and dark jeans, clean-shaven with quiet confidence in his posture. He looked like someone used to being listened to but never loud about it. Rachel blinked. "Excuse me?" she asked, voice suddenly thinner. The man took a few steps closer. "Those flats," he said, nodding at my feet. "Limited run. Only 20 pairs made. Designed last year for a community initiative focused on supporting working moms in underserved neighborhoods." Then he smiled, just slightly. And I would know. I created them. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just stood there with Chloe holding my hand like a lifeline. Rachel laughed sharp, forced. "Oh? You're the shoe guy?" He extended a hand, ignoring the sarcasm. "Brandon Carter, founder of Carter & Co." He turned to me. "And you're wearing them exactly the way they were meant to be worn, with purpose." Rachel's face paled slightly. She tried to recover. "Well, I didn't mean anything personal. I just thought they looked a little basic." Brandon's tone didn't change. He wasn't angry. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. That's the problem, isn't it? People who think value is measured in brand logos and price tags. But real value, real style is about story. About where someone's been, what they've carried, and how they kept walking anyway. The whole boutique was listening now. The clerk who'd smiled at Rachel earlier had gone silent. A couple nearby had stopped browsing, and Chloe was standing a little taller. Brandon looked at me again. "When we launched this line, we partnered with women who worked 2 jobs, raised kids, and still showed up for their communities. We didn't want supermodels. We wanted strength." I swallowed hard. I hadn't felt strong when I walked in. I'd felt small, invisible. But now, people were seeing me. Rachel crossed her arms, visibly uncomfortable for the first time. "Look, this is clearly a misunderstanding. I was just joking with my sister. It's not that deep." Brandon looked at her, not unkindly, but firmly. "No, it is. Because how we speak to people when we think no one important is watching, that is who we are." That one landed. Rachel's eyes darted around the store. No one was defending her. No one was laughing now. I took a breath and stepped forward, not to hide, not to explain, but to claim something back. "I bought these shoes," I said, voice steady, "because I believed in what they represented. I didn't know who made them. I just knew they felt right. Comfortable, honest." Brandon nodded. "That's exactly the point." He reached into his coat pocket and handed me a sleek black card. "If you're ever open to it, we're launching a new campaign called Walk Your Truth. We want real women, not mannequins. I think you'd be perfect." My throat tightened. I don't know what to say." He smiled. "Say yes when you're ready." I looked down at Chloe, who was now grinning like she'd just seen a superhero in real life. Rachel turned away, fiddling with her phone like she could text her way out of this. And for the first time in a long time, I stood still in a space Rachel had tried to dominate and didn't feel like the background. I was centered, seen, and no one could take that back. Rachel hated silence, especially when it wasn't working in her favor. She stood there frozen, one perfectly manicured hand clutched around her phone like it was a weapon she didn't know how to use. The boutique had gone quiet. The background music still played softly through the speakers, but every living, breathing person in that store had turned their attention toward us, toward me. For once, she wasn't the star of the show. "I didn't mean anything offensive," Rachel said finally, her voice wobbling like a chandelier in an earthquake. It was just a comment. Jokes between sisters. Brandon tilted his head slightly. That's the problem. Too many people think cruelty is culture. That insults. Our humor when aimed downward. But a joke that tears someone down isn't funny. It's weak. He didn't say it with anger. He said it like a father correcting a child, clear, firm, unmoved. Rachel's face twitched. I have over 200,000 followers, she said, like that number would somehow reverse the judgment hanging in the air. And how many of them know how you speak to your own sister? He asked. That hit her hard. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at me like maybe I'd step in and rescue her, like I always had in the past. But not this time. This time, I stayed right where I was. Chloe held my hand tighter, like she knew something important was happening, something bigger than shoes or outfits. This was a shift. Brandon turned toward the boutique staff. Is the manager available? One of the clerks, the younger one with the nervous energy, stepped forward. I'm actually the shift lead today. He nodded. You might want to know that your staff stood back while a customer was publicly humiliated. This isn't a critique, it's an opportunity. Elevate your store by protecting your space. She flushed pink and nodded quickly. I'm really sorry. We should have stepped in. Rachel was seething now, trapped in the humiliation she had so confidently crafted for someone else. So what? She spat. Now she's some fashion hero for wearing a pair of charity shoes? That's what we're applauding? Brandon looked her dead in the eye. No, we're applauding her grace, her dignity, her ability to walk through a space that tried to shrink her and still stand tall. That's rare. And that's exactly what we want for our next campaign. Then he turned to me again and asked, Monica, may I take a photo? My throat tightened. Like, right now? He smiled. You don't have to. But this moment? It's exactly the kind of reel we need more of. I nodded. Okay. Just let me fix my... No, he said gently. Don't fix anything. You're perfect as you are. He took out his phone and snapped a photo, just me, standing next to Chloe, holding her hand, wearing those worn black flats that started this whole thing. Then he slipped the phone back in his pocket and said, This is what strength looks like. Rachel scoffed, grabbed her purse, and stormed toward the door. This is ridiculous, she muttered, loud enough for us to hear. You all act like she's some kind of saint. She's just Monica. Brandon didn't even look her way. Exactly. And that's more than enough. As the boutique doors closed behind her, the tension in the room finally eased. The clerk offered us water. Another woman smiled and said, That was powerful, but I wasn't thinking about them. I looked down at Chloe, who was still beaming. You okay, baby? I whispered. She nodded. You looked like a queen, Mom. And in that moment, standing in the very space Rachel tried to shame me in, I believed it. It's strange how one moment, one sentence, one person, one spark can change how you see your entire life. The ride home was quiet. Chloe fell asleep in the back seat, her little head resting against the window, still clutching the Carter & Co. card like a treasure. My mom sat next to me in the passenger seat, fiddling with her purse strap, trying to find the words to make sense of everything she'd witnessed. You okay? She finally asked. I nodded. I think I'm more than okay. And for once, I meant it. The next morning, I woke up before Chloe, made myself a cup of instant coffee, and stood in front of the mirror. Same apartment, same chipped mug, same woman. But something was different. Not outside, inside. I wasn't standing with slumped shoulders anymore. I wasn't looking at my reflection with disappointment or shame. I was seeing myself fully, like I'd been walking past my own worth for years and had finally stopped to notice it. A few days later, I got an email from Brandon's team. The subject line read, Walk your truth. We'd be honored. They weren't joking. A real campaign. Professional photos, an interview, a modest paycheck, but more than that, visibility, respect, a seat at the table without begging for it. I took the offer. The shoot wasn't glamorous. It was real. They came to my neighborhood, shot footage of me reading to kids at the library, walking Chloe to school, standing in line at the grocery store in the same black flats that sparked it all. No makeup team, no stylist, just me in the world I'd built with my own hands. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't wishing I looked like someone else. The photos went live 2 weeks later. One of them showed Chloe sitting in my lap while I read a story, both of us laughing. The caption read, "Power isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it wears clearance shoes and still walks with pride." It went viral. I got messages from women I'd never met. "I needed this today. I've been Monica for years. Thank you for showing up for the rest of us." And Rachel? She didn't say a word for almost a month. When she finally called, her voice was cautious, lighter than usual. "I saw the campaign," she said. "Yeah? You looked strong." "I am." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry for that day and for a lot of other days." I didn't say, "It's okay," because it wasn't, and that's fine. Some apologies aren't meant to wipe the slate clean. They're just meant to be heard. "I hope you learn from it," I said instead. Since then, Rachel's been quieter. Not fake nice, not groveling, just adjusting. For someone who always needed to be the sun, learning to be quiet must be exhausting. But that's not my problem anymore. This experience didn't make me famous. It didn't magically erase my bills or change my zip code. But it changed me. The way I walk, the way I speak, the way I carry my story. For so long, I thought dignity came with price tags. That confidence was something only women like Rachel were born into. But I was wrong. Dignity is walking into a room where you were once laughed at, and standing tall anyway. Confidence is knowing you don't need to prove anything to anyone who wouldn't recognize your worth even if it was written in diamonds. And sometimes, the loudest revenge is living like you were never broken. So yeah, laugh at my shoes again. But be careful who's standing behind me next time.